Good evening, dear listener, and welcome to another soothing journey through history. Tonight, we're stepping into the cluttered, creative world of Leonardo da Vinci in 1505, right in the heart of Renaissance Florence. Our genius inventor is hard at work on his wildest contraptions, flying machines, tanks, and more. But oh dear, they're not exactly cooperating. Picture a day where the great Leonardo, master of art and science, turns his workshop into a circus of failed inventions with mishaps that'll make you giggle as you drift off. If you're ready to trade your modern comforts for a peek into this Renaissance romp, settle in, dim the lights, and perhaps turn on a fan for that soft hum. If you enjoy this journey, do give a like, subscribe, and whisper in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now let's grab a quill and dive into the chaos, carefully, lest we knock over a masterpiece. 'Tis a sunny morning in 1505, and you're Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance genius, already knee-deep in chaos in your Florence workshop. Your cluttered space is a marvel, wooden tables strewn with sketches, a half-finished painting of a lady with a mysterious smile, and a wooden model of a flying machine you've been tinkering with for weeks. You're Leonardo, a man of art and invention, and today you're determined to test your latest contraption, a winged machine that'll let man soar like a bird. "Selai, fetch my tools," you call, your voice a mix of excitement and impatience, as you adjust the wooden wings with a flourish. Your apprentice, Selai, a cheeky lad with a knack for mischief, rushes in with a tray of tools, his smirk as wide as the Arno River. "Here, master," he says, but in his haste, he trips over a pile of sketches, sending the tray flying. Clatter. The flying machine, precariously balanced on the table, tips over with a snap, its wings breaking like a bird that's forgotten how to fly. Your eyes widen in cartoonish panic, brows furrowing as you cry, "My wings! My dreams! Ruined by a clumsy apprentice!" Selai scrambles to his feet, muttering, "Sorry, master, but maybe birds are meant to fly, not men." You glare, but a chuckle escapes. Your day of inventing is off to a soaring start, straight into the ground. Undeterred by the morning's mishap, you've rebuilt your flying machine, sort of, and dragged it to the courtyard for a test flight. "Today, I shall soar like an eagle," you declare, strapping yourself into the contraption, its wooden wings creaking ominously. The machine looks like a giant bat, with linen wings stretched over a wooden frame, and you're perched on a platform like a bird ready to take flight. Your face is a picture of determination, eyes narrowed with focus, as you mutter, "Man will conquer the skies, and I'll be the first." Selai, standing below, smirks cheekily. "Master, are you sure this will work? It looks like a laundry rack with wings." You ignore him, flapping the wings with all your might. Creak, creak. For a moment you lift off the ground half an inch before the whole thing collapses with a crack, sending you tumbling into a haystack with a thud. Cartoon stars circle your head as you emerge, hay in your hair, grumbling, "I flew." For a moment, Selai doubles over, laughing. "You flew straight into the hay, master. That's a new kind of bird." You glare, brushing off the hay. "Laugh all you want, Selai, but I'll conquer the skies yet, even if I have to crawl there first." Your flying dreams may be grounded, but your spirit soars on. Next on your list is a war machine, a wooden tank, a marvel of gears and wheels designed to roll over enemies like a spiked turtle. You've spent weeks sketching this contraption, and now it's ready for a test on a nearby hillside. "Behold, Selai, the future of warfare," you proclaim, patting the tank's wooden shell, its spikes gleaming with menace. Your face glows with pride, eyes sparkling with genius, as you mutter, "This will make me the greatest military mind of the age." But as you give it a push to start the test, the tank starts rolling, downhill straight toward the neighbor's vineyard. "Sacre Madonna," you shout, your eyes popping wide in cartoonish panic, mouth gaping as the tank picks up speed. Crash! It smashes through a row of grapevines, cartoon smoke rising as it finally stops in a ditch, wheels spinning uselessly. Salai chases after it, his tiny legs flailing. "Master, your tank's a grape crusher now." You run down the hill, arms flapping. "My invention, my reputation, ruined by a vineyard." The neighbor, a grumpy old farmer, emerges, shaking his fist. "You owe me for those grapes, Da Vinci." You sigh, muttering, "Perhaps I should stick to painting. These inventions are a battlefield of their own." Back in the workshop, you decide to take a break from inventing and return to your art, specifically a painting you've been working on. A lady with a mysterious smile you call Mona Lisa. "Art will soothe my inventive woes," you muse, picking up a brush with a sigh. But as you dip it in paint, Salai bursts in. "Master, I've brought more paints." His tray is a rainbow of colors, but in his excitement, he bumps into you. Splash! A pot of green paint spills right onto the Mona Lisa, splattering her serene face with cartoonish green splotches. "Sacre Madonna!" you cry, your eyes bulging in cartoonish horror, mouth gaping as you stare at the mess. Her smile now looks like she's eaten a lime. "My masterpiece, ruined by a clumsy apprentice," you wail, grabbing a cloth to wipe it off, but the paint smears, turning her cheeks a sickly shade of green. Salai snickers. "She looks like she's seasick, master." You glare. "Salai, I'll have you scrubbing floors with that smirk." But as you scrub, you can't help laughing. Perhaps she'll start a new fashion. Green is the color of genius, after all. You set the canvas aside to fix later. Your day of failures is piling up faster than your sketches. Not one to give up, you turn to another invention. A diving suit for exploring underwater. A leather contraption with a helmet and air tubes. "I'll dive into the Arno and uncover its secrets," you declare, strapping on the suit with a determined look, your eyes narrowed with focus. The suit looks like a cross between a fish and a knight's armor, and you waddle to the riverbank, Salai trailing behind with a cheeky smirk. "Master, are you sure this will work? You look like a soggy turtle," he teases. You ignore him, stepping into the water. Splash! But the suit springs a leak, cartoon bubbles rising as water floods in. Drip, drip. "Sacre Madonna, I'm sinking!" you shout, your eyes popping wide in cartoonish panic, arms flailing as you waddle back to shore, water pouring out with a splosh. Salai doubles over, laughing. "Master, you're more fisherman than fish." You emerge, soaked and grumpy, muttering, "I'll stick to sketching the river next time. Diving is for the ducks." You peel off the suit, shaking your head. Another invention bites the dust, or rather, the water. Back in the workshop, you turn to a smaller project. A mechanical clock to keep perfect time, a marvel of gears and springs. "Time is the canvas of genius," you proclaim, tinkering with the clock's innards, your face glowing with focus, eyes sparkling with ideas. But as you wind it up, the gears start to whir, too fast. "Sacra Madonna, it's going haywire," you shout, your eyes popping wide in cartoonish panic, mouth gaping as the clock explodes with a boing, cartoon springs flying everywhere. Bing! Bing! One spring hits Salai in the nose. Ow! And he ducks under the table, his smirk replaced by cartoon fear. "Master, your clock's trying to kill us." You dodge a gear, muttering, "I wanted to master time, not be mastered by it." The clock's hands spin wildly before stopping, cartoon smoke rising with a puff. You sigh, wiping soot from your face. "Perhaps I'll stick to sundials, they don't fight back." Salai peeks out, giggling. "At least you kept time for about 3 seconds." You can't help laughing. Your inventions may fail, but your sense of humor keeps ticking. Just when you think the day can't get worse, a noble patron arrives. Lorenzo de' Medici. a wealthy supporter eager to see your latest inventions. "Show me your genius, Leonardo," he demands, his red velvet robe gleaming, his face stern with expectation. You gulp, your eyes widening in cartoonish nervousness. "Of course, my lord." You decide to demonstrate a smaller invention, a mechanical lion meant to roar and walk, a gift for the Medici court. You wind up the lion, its wooden body creaking. Behold, a marvel of engineering. But as it starts to move, clank, clank, it lurches forward, then breaks apart with a crack, cartoon smoke rising as its head rolls off and lands at Lorenzo's feet. "Sacre Madonna," you cry, your eyes popping wide, mouth gaping in panic. Lorenzo frowns. "This is your genius? A lion that loses its head?" You stammer. It's a metaphor, my lord. Courage in defeat." Salai snickers from the corner, and you shoot him a glare. Lorenzo sighs. "Stick to painting, Leonardo. Your machines are a menace." He leaves, and you mutter, "Perhaps he's right, but I'll conquer invention yet." Your patron may be unimpressed, but your determination roars on. As the sun sets, casting a golden glow over your workshop, you take a break from inventing to sketch. A bird in flight, a reminder of your failed flying machine. "Perhaps I'll stick to drawing the skies," you muse, your face softening into a slight smirk, eyes gleaming with quiet reflection. The day's been a parade of disasters. The flying machine crash, the tank tumble, the Mona Lisa mess, the diving suit leak, the clock explosion, and the lion's beheading, but you can't help laughing at the absurdity of it all. Salai sweeps the floor nearby, his cartoonish effort sending dust clouds rising. Poof. "Master, your inventions may fail, but they make for good stories," he teases, his smirk wide as ever. You chuckle. "True, Salai. Perhaps my failures will inspire someone else to fly." You reflect on your genius, not just in art, but in dreaming big, even when your dreams crash spectacularly. Your workshop may be a mess, but your mind is a canvas of endless possibilities, and that's a masterpiece in itself. Night falls, and you prepare for rest, the day's chaos finally behind you. You shed your brown tunic, the soft cap you've worn all day, landing on a pile of sketches, and slip into a simple nightshirt. Geniuses need sleep too. Salai, ever the cheeky apprentice, tucks you into your wooden bed with exaggerated care. Fluffing your pillow, like a mother hen, cartoon hearts pop around him. "Good night, master. May your dreams be free of crashing machines," he teases, his smirk as wide as ever. You roll your eyes. "Sally, if I dream of inventions, I'll have you building them." But a sleepy smirk spreads. ZZs float above your head. Your workshop is quiet, save for the distant chirp of crickets and the rustle of papers in the breeze. You reflect on the day's failures, the flying machine, the tank, the Mona Lisa, the diving suit, the clock, the lion, but also on your endless curiosity. Each failure is a brushstroke on the canvas of your genius, and tomorrow you'll paint anew. As you drift off, the day fades into dreams of flight, machines, and a Mona Lisa who doesn't mind a little green. Another day as Leonardo da Vinci is done, and you've survived, inventions and all. And so, a day in the life of Leonardo da Vinci comes to a close, leaving behind a legacy of art, invention, and a few hilarious mishaps in the heart of Renaissance Florence. If you're still awake, I hope you've enjoyed these creative antics. If you're drifting off, let the quill's gentle scratch carry you to dreamland. Thanks for joining me on this inventive journey. Like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts or what historical tale you'd like to hear next. Until then, sleep well, And may your dreams be as boundless as Leonardo's imagination, minus the crashing machines. Hi, dear listener, and welcome to another delightfully drowsy journey through history. We're off to the glittering court of England in 1590, where Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen herself, is having a rather unregal morning. Her Majesty's trying to dress for a grand diplomatic audience, but her wardrobe has other plans. Think ruffs that flop, corsets that creak, and a gown that fights back. We'll follow Elizabeth through a day of fashion fiascos that'll make even the stuffiest courtier giggle. If you're ready to trade your modern comforts for a peek into this royal romp, settle in, dim the lights, and perhaps turn on a fan for that soft hum. If you enjoy this journey, do give a like, subscribe, and whisper in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now, let's lace up our corsets and dive into the chaos. Carefully, mind you, 'tis a fine morning in 1590, and you're Queen Elizabeth I, the Gloriana of England, leaping out of bed in Whitehall Palace with the grace of a startled goose, because your pet ferret, Sir Whiskers, has decided your velvet slipper is a gourmet snack. God's teeth, Sir Whiskers, you furry traitor, you screech, your voice echoing through the marble columns as you chase him around your canopied bed, its faded red velvet drapes flapping like a matador's cape in a bullfight. The little beast scampers off with the slipper, leaving a trail of nibble marks, and you flop back onto the bed with a dramatic thud, wailing, "I rule an empire, but I can't rule a ferret. Where's the justice in this realm?" Your chambers are a regal mess, a roaring fire in the hearth, a pile of gowns that could crush a knight, and a velvet slipper that's now a ferret's trophy. You clap your hands, regally of course, and in rushes Lady Margaret, your lady-in-waiting, with a tray of jewels that shimmer like a dragon's hoard. But in her haste to bow, she trips over the ferret's latest victim, another slipper, and the tray goes flying. A ruby ring lands in your wash basin with a cartoon splash, cartoon bubbles in pale blue popping around it, and you sigh. "Margaret, if I wanted a jewel bath, I'd have ordered a crown-shaped tub." She scrambles to fish it out, her face redder than your best gown, while you chuckle. Ruling England is serious business, but your mornings? They're a right royal circus. You sweep into the dressing chamber, ready to dazzle the Spanish envoys. But first, you've got to survive the corset, a beast of whalebone and silk that's more torture device than fashion. "Lace me up, Margaret," you bellow, bracing yourself like you're facing the Armada. Margaret tugs the laces with all her might, her tiny cartoon hands shaking, her face scrunching up like a walnut, cartoon stars in pale yellow popping around her head. The corset creaks with a loud squeak like a rusty gate, and you gasp. "God's bodkins, Margaret, are you trying to turn me into a lute string?" Your eyes bulge out, cartoon sweat drops flying, as you wheeze, "I'm a queen, not a sausage roll. Have mercy." Just when you think you might actually pop, a lace snaps with a cartoon twang, smacking Margaret's nose with a boing sound. She tumbles backward, cartoon stars swirling as she yelps, "Your Majesty, I swear I didn't mean to turn you into a pie crust." You stagger forward, clutching the vanity, your ruff flopping like a sad pancake, and shriek, "I'll never breathe again. Fetch me a fan, I'm turning into a boiled lobster." Margaret scrambles to find a new lace, her cartoon legs wobbling, while you fan yourself dramatically, muttering, "If this corset doesn't kill me, the Spanish might." You finally get laced up, barely, and stagger onward, praying the gown doesn't join the rebellion. Now that the corset's tamed, sort of, it's time for the gown. A faded pink silk masterpiece, so heavy, you're sure it could anchor a ship. Lady Blanche, your other lady-in-waiting, helps you into it, her tiny cartoon legs wobbling under the weight. "This gown weighs more than my throne," you grumble, feeling like a walking tapestry. The crowning glory is the ruff, a massive, starched collar of white lace that's supposed to frame your face like a halo, but instead makes you itch like you've rolled in a haystack. Blanche pins the ruff in place, but the starch is as limp as a court jester's hat, and it flops to one side with a sad plop. "Blanche, I look like a drooping daisy, not a queen," you snap, flapping your arms to fluff it up, but a pin pops loose and jabs your neck. Ow! Your eyes bulge out, cartoon stars in pale yellow circling your head as you swat at the ruff, tearing it with a loud "Uriep!" The whole thing flies off, landing on your head like a floppy hat. Cartoon sparkles flying as you shriek, "I'm a queen, not a court fool. Why does this ruff hate me?" Blanche gasps, pricking her finger on another pin. Her eyes pop out with a pop effect, cartoon tears streaming as she wails. "Your Majesty, I'm so sorry." You can't help giggling at the mess, muttering, "At this rate, I'll meet the Spanish with a ruff for a crown. Fetch me a smaller one, click." Next up, jewels. A queen must sparkle after all. Lady Margaret brings a tray of treasures, a pearl necklace, a ruby brooch, and a golden chain with emeralds that scream, "I'm richer than you." "The emeralds, Margaret," you declare, holding up the chain with a regal nod. But as you try to clasp it, the chain catches in your ruff, tangling in the lace like a spider in a web. "Uh-oh. God's wounds, not again," you cry, tugging at it with cartoon sparkles flying. But it's stuck, tighter than a tax collector's grip, the ruff stretching comically with a boing sound. Margaret dives in to help, her tiny hands flailing as she pulls, her face scrunching up with cartoon sweat drops flying in pale blue. But she yanks too hard, and the ruff rips off completely, flying across the room like a frisbee. Whoosh! It lands on a candelabra, spinning like a lopsided crown, and you shriek. "I'm starting to think this necklace is cursed. Perhaps the French Duke wants me to look like a jester." Margaret's eyes pop out in panic, cartoon tears streaming as she wails, "Your Majesty, I didn't mean to turn you into a lace tornado." She finally frees the necklace, but not before it leaves a green smudge on your ruff. Emerald dust, of course. You sigh dramatically. "At least I'll sparkle, even if I look like I've been rolling in a jewel mine. Fetch me a new ruff, Margaret, before I banish lace from England." With a new ruff, slightly less rebellious, you sweep into the throne room to practice your speech for the Spanish envoys. The room's a stunner. A golden throne, marble columns, and a tapestry of your Armada victory that makes you look like a goddess. If goddesses had ruffs that mutiny. You've penned a speech to dazzle the envoys, a mix of flattery and steel. "Lords of Spain, under my reign, England shines," you declare, pacing with regal flair, your voice booming like a cannon. But as you turn to emphasize a point, your foot catches on that blasted velvet slipper, the same one Margaret tripped over this morning. You slip with a cartoon squeak, arms flailing like a windmill, and let out a banshee like God's bodkins. Cartoon stars and pale yellow circling your head as you crash onto the throne with a thud. Your ruff flops over your face like a soggy pancake, and you flail dramatically, shrieking, "I meant to conquer Spain, not my own slippers." "I'll banish these fiends to the tower." Lady Blanche lunges to catch you, her tiny arms stretching comically long with a stretch sound. But she's too late. She trips over her own feet, landing with a plop, cartoon tears streaming. You dust off your gown, grumbling, "Perhaps I'll deliver the speech sitting down or lying down at this rate." The audience hour arrives, and you sweep into the banquet hall, determined to dazzle despite the day's fumbles. The halls of vision, a long table piled with roast swan, figs, and spiced soup, lit by candelabras that twinkle like stars. though your ruff still looks a bit moth-eaten. The Spanish envoys rise to bow, their faded red togas a splash of color, and you take your seat, your pink gown shimmering like a dusty ruby. "Welcome, friends from Spain," you proclaim, your voice a mix of warmth and steel. "Let us feast as allies under God's grace." But as you lean for a sip of soup, your golden sash, already loosened by the morning's chaos, slips off your shoulder and plops into your bowl. Broth splatters your ruff with a cartoon splash, cartoon droplets in pale green flying, and a carrot chunk sticks to the lace like a trader's badge. Your eyes pop out, cartoon steam puffing from your ears as you shriek, "My sash has defected to the soup. I'll have its head for this treason." You fling your arms up dramatically, accidentally knocking over a candelabra with a clunk, and the envoys gape, their tiny cartoon eyes bulging, cartoon sweat drops flying. You freeze, then laugh, a bright, regal laugh that fills the hall. "My sash wished to taste the soup before me. Perhaps it's a Spanish spy." The envoys chuckle, charmed by your wit, but you mutter to Blanche, "If one more thing falls off, I'll hold this audience in my petticoat," or declare war on fashion. With the feast in full swing, you decide to wow the envoys with a galliard, a lively dance to show off your grace and England's flair. The lutes strike up a merry tune, and you take the hand of the lead envoy, Don Felipe, a stiff Spaniard who looks like he'd rather face the Armada again. "Let us dance as allies," you declare, leading him onto the floor with a twirl, your cartoon eyes sparkling with confidence, until disaster strikes. As usual, you start the galliard, skipping with queenly flair, but Don Felipe is no dancer. He stomps on your hem with a heavy boot, and you hear a loud rip as the fabric tears. You stumble, arms flailing like a windmill, cartoon sparkles and pale yellow flying, and shriek, "My gown! I'll have Spain's head for this." But it gets worse. The tear catches on a velvet curtain as you spin, and with a cartoon crash, the entire curtain rod comes down, draping you in pale green fabric like a giant ghost. You wail, "I'm a queen, not a drapery shop." Flailing under the curtain, cartoon stars circling your head, while Don Felipe gapes, his tiny eyes popping out, cartoon sweat drops flying. Blanche rushes to help, tripping over her own feet with a plop, and you mutter, "I'll ban dancing from court, or banish Spain, whichever's easier." After the audience, you flee to the palace gardens, a quiet haven of roses and fountains where you can escape the day's chaos, curtain and all. You plop onto a stone bench, Margaret and Blanche fanning you with peacock feathers, their earlier blunders forgiven as they giggle at the memory of the curtain catastrophe. The evening air is cool, a welcome relief after the stuffy hall, and the stars twinkle above like the jewels you almost lost today. "What a day," you sigh, a dramatic grin spreading across your face, your cartoon eyes sparkling with mischief. "I've battled corsets, ruffs, and Spanish boots, and yet here I am, still England's shining star." You flop back on the bench, arms spread wide like you're about to conquer the garden, and reflect on the power of fashion in your reign. Your wardrobe isn't just vanity, it's a weapon. Every gown, every jewel, every ruff is a statement. England is strong, wealthy, untouchable, even if your ruff looks like a moth-eaten rag and your sash prefers soup to diplomacy. The Spanish envoys may have seen you draped in a curtain, but they also saw a queen who laughed like a jester, who danced like a whirlwind despite a torn hem. Beauty is power, and you wield it like a scepter, even when it's falling apart, literally. Margaret snorts. "At least the envoys will never forget you, Your Majesty. They'll tell tales of the Curtain Queen." You cackle. "Aye, they'll write ballads about the queen who conquered soup and drapery." Let them try to top that. Back in your chambers, you prepare for bed, the day's chaos finally behind you, though you're still picking curtain lint off your gown. Blanche helps you out of the pink monstrosity, carefully lest another piece tears, and removes the ruff, its pins leaving faint marks on your neck. "I'll have a word with the seamstress about these ruffs," you mutter, rubbing your neck with a dramatic sigh. "They're more dangerous than the Spanish Armada, and twice as itchy." Blanche giggles, her cartoon eyes sparkling as she helps you into a soft nightgown, the fabric a welcome relief after the day's heavy attire. You flop onto your canopied bed with a cartoon boing, arms spread wide, and let out a dramatic yawn that echoes through the room, your cartoon eyes half closed in exaggerated relief. Sir Whiskers the ferret curls up at your feet with a cartoon Z bubble, dreaming of slippers, no doubt. The palace is quiet now, except for the distant strum of a lute and the soft crackle of the fire. You reflect on the day's mishaps, the corset that squeaked, the ruff that crowned you, the sash that swam, the curtain that staged a coup. But also on the triumph. The envoys were charmed, your alliance strengthened, and England's glory shines brighter than ever. Even if your dignity took a few hits, a queen must endure, you proclaim, flinging an arm over your face like a drama queen. Even if her wardrobe wages war, I'll banish ruffs to the tower tomorrow. You drift off, giggling at the thought, the day's events fading into dreams of diplomacy, dances, and a ruff that doesn't fight back. And so, a day in the life of Queen Elizabeth I comes to a close, leaving behind a legacy of splendor, wit, and a wardrobe that's more rebellious than the Spanish Armada. If you're still awake, I hope you've enjoyed these royal antics. If you're drifting off, let the lutes, gentle strum, carry you to dreamland. Thanks for joining me on this regal romp. Like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts or what historical tale you'd like to hear next. Until then, sleep well, and may your dreams be as dazzling as Elizabeth's court, minus the wardrobe wars. Welcome to another soothing journey through history. Tonight, we're stepping into the opulent, golden world of ancient Egypt in 40 BC, a land of pharaohs, palaces, and the legendary beauty of Queen Cleopatra VII. Imagine spending your day trying to look like a goddess with milk baths, kohl eyeliner, and honey masks, only to have everything go hilariously wrong, from runaway donkeys to smudged makeup. Over the next, we'll follow Cleopatra through her chaotic beauty routine, filled with mishaps that even a queen can't escape. If you're ready to trade your modern comforts for a peek into this glamorous yet funny day, settle in, dim the lights, and maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum. And if you enjoy this journey, give the video a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now, let's brush on some kohl and step into the past. It's just before dawn in the year 40 BC, and you're Cleopatra VII, the dazzling queen of Egypt, waking up in your luxurious palace in Alexandria. Your bed is a masterpiece of gold and ebony, draped with linen as fine as a spider's web. But even a queen can't escape the occasional mosquito bite. You stretch, groaning as the first rays of sunlight sneak through the alabaster windows, muttering to yourself, "Another day of ruling," and looking divine. Ra, give me strength. Your golden headdress is on a stand nearby, glinting like the sun itself. A reminder of the image you must maintain as a living goddess. You clap your hands, summoning your servants, who rush in with trays of perfumes, oils, and a fan made of ostrich feathers. "Prepare my bath," you command, your voice regal but a bit groggy. You're not exactly a morning person. Your favorite servant, Iris, bows low, but in her haste, she trips over your pet cat, Bastet, knocking over a jar of rose-scented perfume. The room fills with the overpowering scent, and you sneeze, glaring at Iris. By the gods, Iris, are you trying to drown me in flowers before breakfast? You snap. But your tone softens as Bastet purrs and rubs against your leg. You scoop her up, muttering, "At least someone here knows how to behave." You slip into a simple linen robe, your bare feet padding across the cool stone floor as you head to the bathing chamber. Today is a big day. You're hosting a banquet for Roman envoys, and you need to look every bit the divine queen they expect. But as you'll soon discover, beauty in ancient Egypt comes with its fair share of chaos. You arrive at the bathing chamber, a stunning room with a sunken pool tiled in lapis lazuli, its walls painted with lotus flowers and ibis birds. Your servants have prepared a milk bath, a luxury you're famous for. Rumor has it you bathe in donkey milk to keep your skin soft and radiant. Make sure it's fresh, you order, settling into the pool as Iris pours the milk from a clay jar. The warm milk feels divine, and you close your eyes, imagining how radiant you'll look at the banquet, until a loud braying noise shatters your peace. You open your eyes to see a donkey, the very one whose milk you're bathing in, charging into the chamber, dragging a servant behind it. "What in the name of Hathor?" you exclaim, as the donkey, spooked by a stray cat, kicks over the remaining milk jar and bolts out the door. Milk splashes everywhere, soaking Iris, who slips and lands in the pool with a splash, her kohl eyeliner smudging down her face like a sad raccoon. "Iris, you were supposed to milk the donkey, not bring it to my bath," you shout, trying to sound regal while covered in milk. Iris scrambles out, muttering apologies, and chases after the donkey, leaving you to laugh despite yourself. "Well," you mutter, "at least I'll smell like a dairy goddess." You rinse off the milk with water from the Nile, brought in by another servant, Charmian, who's trying not to giggle at the chaos. The bath isn't quite the luxurious start you'd hoped for, but you're Cleopatra, you'll make it work. You step out, wrapping yourself in a linen towel, and move on to the next step of your beauty routine, hoping for fewer animal interruptions. Next, you move to your dressing chamber, a room adorned with golden mirrors and alabaster vases. You sit on a cushioned stool, and Charmian brings a tray of makeup, kohl eyeliner, malachite eyeshadow, and red ochre for your lips. Kohl is your signature look, a black paste made from galena and soot, used to line your eyes and protect them from the sun's glare. "Make me look like a goddess," you tell Charmian, who nods eagerly and hands you a small stick to apply the kohl. You dip the stick into the kohl and carefully draw a line along your upper eyelid, extending it into a dramatic wing, the look that says, "I'm a queen, fear me." But the kohl is thicker than usual, and your hand slips, smudging a black streak across your cheek. "By Isis, this looks like a child's drawing," you exclaim, grabbing a cloth to wipe it off, only to smear it further. Now you look like you've been crying charcoal. Charmian stifles a laugh, and you glare at her. "Are you laughing at your queen, Charmian?" She shakes her head quickly, but her eyes betray her amusement. You try again, but a sudden gust of wind from an open window blows dust into your eye, making you blink at the worst moment. The kohl stick jabs your eyelid, and you yelp, dropping it onto your lap, where it leaves a black streak on your pristine linen robe. "This is a disaster," you groan, tossing the stick aside. Charmian, ever loyal, steps in to fix the mess, carefully reapplying the kohl while you mutter, "If ruling Egypt were as hard as this, I'd have given up long ago." With your kohl finally in place, though one eye looks slightly more dramatic than the other, you move on to a honey mask, a trick you learn to keep your skin glowing. Honey is a luxury in Egypt, prized for its healing properties, and you've ordered a fresh batch from the royal apiary. Iris brings a small jar of golden honey, and you scoop out a generous amount, smearing it across your face. "This will make me shine like Ra himself," you say, closing your eyes as the sticky sweetness settles on your skin. But honey is trickier than it looks. It starts to drip, sliding down your neck and into your hair, tangling in the strands like a golden web. "Iris, it's dripping!" you shout, trying to catch the gooey mess, but your hands are sticky too, and you end up smearing it everywhere. Iris rushes to help, but in her panic, she knocks the jar over, spilling the rest of the honey onto the floor. "By the gods, Iris, now I'm a walking beehive!" you exclaim as a fly buzzes in, attracted by the sweet scent, and lands on your nose. You swat at it, only to smear more honey across your face, and Iris bursts into giggles, earning a glare from you. Charmian brings a wet cloth to clean you up, and you mutter, "If Julius Caesar could see me now, he'd sail back to Rome faster than a Nile crocodile." But you can't help laughing at the absurdity of it all. A queen covered in honey, swatting flies like a commoner. You rinse off the mask, hoping the next step of your routine will go more smoothly. With your face finally clean, though still slightly sticky, you move to the throne room to practice a new dance for the banquet. You've heard the Romans love a good performance, and you want to impress them with your grace and charm. You've chosen a flowing blue robe with golden embroidery, its sleeves long and elegant, perfect for a dance inspired by the movements of the Nile. "I'll be as graceful as a heron," you declare, striking a dramatic pose as Iris and Charmian clap in encouragement. You start the dance, swaying your hips and raising your arms like the river's waves, imagining the Romans' awe at your elegance. But the robe is heavier than you expected, and as you spin, the sleeve catches on your golden bracelet and tears with a loud rip. You freeze, staring at the dangling fabric, and Charmian gasps, "Oh no, my queen!" Iris tries to stifle a laugh, but it escapes as a snort, and you glare at her. "Is this funny, Iris? Your queen looks like a torn papyrus scroll." You try to salvage the dance, but the torn sleeve flaps awkwardly, and you trip over your own feet, landing on a cushion with a thud. The servants rush to help, and you mutter, "Perhaps I'll stick to ruling instead of dancing." You laugh despite yourself, deciding to change into a simpler robe for the banquet. No more spins for today. Back in the dressing chamber, you move on to your lips, deciding to try a new shade of red ochre. A pigment made from crushed earth, mixed with animal fat to create a vibrant lipstick. "This will make my smile irresistible," you say, dipping a small brush into the mixture and carefully applying it to your lips. The color is bold, a fiery red that matches your royal status, and you admire your reflection in the golden mirror, feeling every bit the queen. But the mixture is greasier than expected, and as you smile to test the look, the ochre slips off your lips and onto your cheek, leaving a bright red streak. "Oh, for the love of Amun," you exclaim, grabbing a cloth to wipe it off. But the grease spreads further, making you look like you've been slapped with a paintbrush. Iris tries to help, but she accidentally bumps the tray, sending the ochre pot flying. It lands on your lap, staining your new robe with a red splotch. "Iris, are you trying to make me look like a tomato?" You snap, but your tone is more amused than angry. Charmian brings water to clean you up, and you laugh. "If Mark Antony saw me now, he'd think I've been in a battle with a paint pot." You settle for a lighter shade of ochre, applied more carefully this time, and decide to move on before any more makeup disasters strike. Finally, it's time for the banquet. You've managed to salvage your look. Your kohl is dramatic. Your lips are a subtle red, and your new robe is free of honey and ochre stains. You enter the banquet hall, a stunning room with golden columns and a long table laden with roasted duck, figs, and bowls of barley soup. The Roman envoys are already seated, their red togas a stark contrast to the Egyptian splendor, and they rise to bow as you take your place at the head of the table. You smile, radiating confidence, and begin to speak, welcoming the envoys with your legendary charm. Friends from Rome, let us feast as allies under the gaze of Ra, you say, gesturing to the table. But as you lean forward to pick up your spoon, your heavy golden necklace, a gift from your father, Ptolemy XII, slips off your neck and lands with a splash in your bowl of soup. The room falls silent, the Romans staring in shock as broth drips down your robe. You freeze, then laugh, trying to salvage the moment. It seems the gods wanted to bless my soup with gold. The Romans chuckle nervously, and Eros rushes to retrieve the necklace, slipping on the wet floor in the process and landing with a thud. You wave off the incident with a regal smile, but inside, you're mortified. First the donkey, now the soup. Hathor must be laughing at me today, you mutter under your breath. The banquet continues, and you charm the envoys with your wit. But the memory of this soup-soaked necklace lingers in your mind, a reminder that even queens have their off days. After the banquet, you retire to the palace gardens, a serene oasis by the Nile, where lotus flowers bloom and the air smells of jasmine. The Romans have been charmed, despite the soup incident, and you've secured their alliance for another season. You sit on a golden chair, Iris and Charmian fanning you with ostrich feathers, their earlier mishaps forgiven. The night is cool, a welcome relief after the day's heat, and the stars glitter above like the jewels in your crown. You reflect on the day's chaos, the runaway donkey, the smudged coal, the honey mask, the torn sleeve, and the necklace in the soup. Being a queen is harder than ruling an empire, you muse, a smile tugging at your lips. You've always known beauty is power in Egypt. A queen must look divine to command respect, to be seen as a living goddess. But today reminded you that even goddesses have their clumsy moments. Your servants giggle at the memory of the donkey, and you join them, your laughter echoing over the Nile. For a moment, you're not just a queen. You're a woman, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Back in your chamber, you prepare for bed, the day's chaos finally behind you. Eros helps you remove your headdress, its weight a relief to shed, and Charmian brings a basin of water to wash the last traces of coal and ochre from your face. You slip into a simple linen nightgown, the fabric soft against your skin, and lie down on your golden bed, Bastet the cat curling up beside you with a contented purr. You reflect on the banquet. The Raymonds were impressed. Your alliance is secure, and despite the mishaps, you looked every bit the queen they expected. But you can't help chuckling at the memory of the donkey, the honey, and the soup-soaked necklace. Even a goddess has her off days, you murmur to Bastet, who yawns in agreement. The palace is quiet now, except for the distant lapping of the Nile and the soft hum of crickets. As you close your eyes, the day's events fade into the background, replaced by dreams of beauty, power, and the gentle flow of the river. Another day as Cleopatra is done, and you've survived, mishaps and all. And so a day in the life of Cleopatra comes to a close, leaving behind a legacy of beauty, charm, and a few hilarious mishaps in the heart of ancient Egypt. If you're still awake after this 90-minute journey, I hope you've enjoyed these royal antics. If you're drifting off, let the Nile's gentle flow carry you to dreamland. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, and now off to dreamland, and comment with your thoughts, or what historical tale you'd like to hear next. Until then, sleep well, and may your dreams be as golden as Cleopatra's headdress. Good evening, dear listener, and welcome to another soothing journey through history. Tonight, we're marching into the grand yet slightly silly world of Napoleon Bonaparte in 1805, right before his legendary Battle of Austerlitz. But forget the cannons and conquests for a moment. Our emperor is having a hat crisis. Picture a day where the mighty Napoleon, conqueror of nations, is more worried about his bicorn hat than his battle plans, leading to a parade of wardrobe mishaps that'll tickle your funny bone. If you're ready to trade your modern comforts for a peek into this imperial caper, settle in, dim the lights, and perhaps turn on a fan for that soft hum. If you enjoy this journey, do give a like, subscribe, and whisper in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now, let's adjust our hats and step into the past, carefully, lest they fall off. 'Tis a crisp morning in 1805, and you're Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the French, pacing in your military tent on the eve of the Battle of Austerlitz. Your camp's buzzing, soldiers polishing swords, horses snorting, generals plotting, but you've got a crisis. Your hat. You're Napoleon, and your bicorn hat is your crown, your glory, your everything. Murat, where are my hats? You bellow, your voice a mix of imperial command and whiny toddler, as you hold up a bicorn so tiny it looks like it belongs on a mouse. It perches on your finger like a toy, making your oversized cartoon head look even sillier. General Murat, your flamboyant cavalry commander, struts in, his red hussar uniform blazing like a tomato, golden braids so big they could double as pillows. "Sire, I've brought every bicorn in the camp," he says, his long nose wiggling as he tries not to laugh, cartoon sparkles twinkling around him. You plop the tiny hat on your head. It sits there like a sad cherry on a cake, and your eyes bulge out, mouth gaping. This hat wouldn't fit a flea, let alone an emperor. You toss it aside, and it lands on a candle, nearly setting the tent ablaze. Murat stomps out the flame with a sizzle, muttering, "Perhaps we should fight the Austrians with hats, sire. They'd surrender in fright." You glare, but a chuckle escapes. Your hat obsession is already off to a fiery start. Determined to find a hat that fits, you snatch another bicorn from Murat's tray. This one's so huge it could double as a soup pot. "This will make me look formidable," you declare, plopping it on with a cartoonish boing. But the brim sags over your eyes like a drooping umbrella, blocking your entire view. Your big cartoon eyes disappear under the hat, and you stumble forward, knocking over a table. "Sacre bleu, I can't see a thing," you wail, your mouth gaping as cartoon sweat drops fly, your battle map of Austerlitz landing in a muddy puddle with a splat. General Ney, your fiery marshal, steps in, his blue uniform crisp with a red sash, but his comically large nose wiggles as he tries not to laugh. His eyes pop out with a pop effect. "Sire, perhaps a smaller hat might suit your vision," he suggests, his voice quivering. You lift the brim just enough to glare. "Nay, I'll have you polishing cannons if you laugh at your emperor." But the hat slips off, landing on Ney's foot with a thud. He hops around, cartoon stars circling his head, while you mutter, "Well, at least it's good for something, keeping my marshals on their toes." You toss the oversized hat aside, your hat hunt far from over. You finally find a hat that fits, your favorite bicorn, black as coal, with a crisp brim that makes you look like the conqueror you are. Perfect. You proclaim, striking a pose in a camp mirror, your cartoon eyes sparkling with pride. But as you step outside to review your troops, a chitty pigeon decides your hat is the perfect perch. It swoops down with a whoosh, landing with a plop, and leaves a white, gooey mess right on the brim. Cartoon goo dripping down. "Sacre bleu," you roar, your oversized head shaking with fury. eyes lopsided and mouth gaping as cartoon steam puffs from your ears. This bird dares to defile the Emperor of France. The pigeon coos mockingly, flapping off with a swoop, leaving you to deal with the mess. General Berthier, your meticulous chief of staff, steps forward, his blue uniform neat with golden braids, but his tiny cartoon legs wobble as he tries not to laugh. His mouth wobbles like jelly. "Sire, perhaps it's good luck," he ventures, but you glare, wiping the hat with a handkerchief, muttering, "If this is luck, I'd rather lose at Austerlitz." The troops snicker, and you snap. The next man who laughs will be cleaning latrines with his toothbrush. But a wry smile creeps in. This hat obsession is a battlefield of its own. Back in the tent, you're on a mission to replace your besmirched hat. "Morat, bring me more hats," you order, and your cavalry commander returns with a stack so tall it could block the sun. "Sire, I've raided every officer's trunk," he says, his long nose wiggling as he balances the pile, cartoon sweat drops flying. You grab hat after hat, trying them on with the intensity of a general planning a siege. Cartoon question marks pop above your head as you waffle. One's too tight, pinching your head like a walnut. "I'll have a headache before the battle," you grumble. Another's too loose, slipping over your ears. "I look like a jester, not an emperor." A third has a feather so long it tickles your nose, making you sneeze. Achoo! The hat flies off, knocking over a candlestick, and Murat dives to catch it with a swoop before the tent catches fire, cartoon flames flickering. "Sire, perhaps we should focus on the battle," he suggests, but you wave him off. A general without a hat is like a cannon without powder. "Murat, I must look the part." The pile collapses, hats rolling everywhere with a roll effect, leaving Murat chasing them like a man herding cats, while you laugh. A hat parade before a battle, what a way to start the day! With your hat finally in place, muddy but majestic, you stride out to address your troops. The field of Austerlitz stretches before you, a sea of soldiers in blue, their muskets gleaming, the tricolor flag waving like a tipsy banner. You climb onto a platform, your blue coat billowing dramatically, and begin your speech. "Soldiers of France, today we shall." But a sudden gust of wind snatches your bicorn right off your head, sending it soaring over the troops like a runaway balloon. Whoosh! Cartoon stars circle your head as you flail, nearly tumbling off with a wobble. "Sacre bleu!" you shout, your eyes bulging and mouth gaping in cartoonish panic, arms flapping like a windmill. The hat lands in a muddy puddle with a splat, and the soldiers, thousands of them, burst into giggles, their tiny cartoon legs shaking as they double over. You straighten up, trying to salvage your dignity. "The wind, it salutes our victory," you declare, but your face is redder than a grenadier's coat. General Ney nearby picks up the soggy hat, handing it back with a smirk. "Sire, perhaps the Austrians will surrender at the sight of your battle-worn hat." You snatch it, muttering, "I'll have you polishing cannons, Ney, if you don't stop smirking." The speech continues, but your hat's muddy glory steals the show. Back in the tent, you gather your generals to finalize the battle plan. Your muddy hat perched defiantly on your head. A large map of Austerlitz lies on the table, marked with troop positions in red and blue ink. "We'll strike here at dawn," you declare, pointing dramatically. But you've left your pointer stick outside. Undeterred, you grab your hat, using its brim to point at the map like a makeshift baton. Cartoon sparkles around you as you jab. "Here, Berthier, we'll flank the enemy." But the hat's brim is sharper than you thought, and with a rip it tears a hole right through the Pratzen Heights, your key position. "Sacre bleu!" you exclaim, your eyes popping out in cartoonish dismay, mouth gaping as the map splits. Rip. General Berthier, ever the diplomat, tries to hide a smirk. Cartoon sweat drops on his face. Sire, perhaps we've conquered the map already? You glare. Berthier, if I wanted to fight paper, I'd be a clerk, not an emperor. You patch the map with a scrap, muttering, "This hat's more dangerous than the enemy. I should wear it into battle." The generals chuckle, and you join in. The hat may be a menace, but your spirit remains unconquered. Your muddy hat won't do for the eve of victory, so you bark, "Nay, find me a new hat." Your marshal returns with a fresh bicorn, pristine and perfectly sized, its black felt gleaming like a general's ambition. You plop it on with a boing, striking a pose in the mirror, your cartoon eyes sparkling with triumph, mouth stretching into a wide grin. Sparkle. "Now this is an emperor's hat," you declare, turning to Ney with a nod. "I'll lead my men to glory in style." Ney gives a playful salute, his comically large nose wiggling. "Sire, you'll conquer Austerlitz and fashion before the day is done." Cartoon stars pop above his head as he grins. You chuckle, glancing at the pile of discarded hats in the corner. Too small, too large, too bird-stained, some with cartoon cracks from your antics. "A general's hat is his crown, Ney," you muse, adjusting the brim with a flourish. "And I'll wear this one to victory." The tent buzzes with impending battle energy, but for now, you're just a man who's won the war against his wardrobe. You stride out, hat firmly in place, ready to face the Austrians with the confidence only a perfect bicorn can bring. "Why you're busy with your hat saga? Life in the camp rolls on for your generals, a motley crew of loyal but quirky commanders." Outside the tent, General Murat, the dashing cavalry leader, polishes his saber with exaggerated effort, his red hussar uniform blazing like a tomato, oversized golden braids bouncing. Cartoon sweat drops fly as he mutters, "If I shine any brighter, the Austrians will surrender from sheer dazzle." His long nose wiggles with pride, but he accidentally polishes too hard, and the saber slips, clank, hitting his boot. Cartoon stars circling his head as he hops around, yelping, "Sacre bleu, my poor toes!" Nearby, General Ney, the fiery bravest of the brave, tries on one of your discarded bicorns, his comically large nose poking out as he grins cheekily. Cartoon sparkles around him. "I look almost as good as the Emperor," he boasts, striking a pose. But the hat's too big, slipping over his eyes with a plop. He stumbles into a tent pole, cartoon bonk sound echoing as he mutters, "Perhaps I'll stick to fighting." Meanwhile, General Berthier, the meticulous chief of staff, scribbles on a map, his tiny cartoon legs wobbling under his oversized desk. Ink splatters everywhere with a splash, and he grumbles, "If I survive Napoleon's hat obsession, the Austrians will be a breeze." The camp's a circus, but these generals are the heart of your army, ready to fight and laugh by your side. As the day progresses, you can't help but think about how your hat stacks up against the enemy's fashion. Across the battlefield, the Austrian and Russian generals are preparing too, and you've heard rumors of their own sartorial splendor. "Murat, what do we know of their hats?" you ask, adjusting your new bicorn with a proud cartoonish grin, sparkles around you. Murat, his long nose wiggling, reports, "Sire, the Austrian General Kutuzov wears a shako hat, tall, feathered, and rather smug, if you ask me." You imagine Kutuzov on the other side of the river, his comically tiny head dwarfed by a towering shako hat, its feathers so long it tickles his nose. Cartoon sparkles around him as he smirks, "Napoleon's bicorn is no match for my shako." His white uniform with a green sash gleams, but the feather keeps drooping, and he sneezes, "Achoo!" knocking the hat askew with a wobble. Back in your camp, you scoff. "A shako? He looks like a peacock with a head cold." Your soldiers in blue snicker, while the Austrians in white giggle at Kutuzov's sneeze. Fashion may be a battlefield, but your bicorn, muddy or not, has a charm all its own. And you're ready to prove it in battle, hat and all. Scene is framed with a playful border of cartoon military insignia in gold and blue. Your hat obsession isn't just a personal quirk. It's become the talk of the camp, boosting your soldiers' morale in the most unexpected way. As you stride through the ranks, your new bicorn tilted jauntily, the troops erupt in cheers, their tiny cartoon legs bouncing with joy, cartoon hearts sparkling in their eyes. Vive l'Empereur! Vive le chapeau! They shout, waving their muskets, some mimicking your hat with makeshift paper versions, one soldier even wearing a pot on his head with a clank. You pause on a hill, your cartoon eyes gleaming with pride, mouth stretching into a wide grin, sparkle. My hat inspires them more than my speeches, you muse, adjusting the brim with a flourish. A young soldier, his legs comically tiny, salutes with a paper hat. Sire, if your hat can survive a pigeon, we can survive the Austrians. The camp roars with laughter, and you join in. Then let's march to victory, hats and all. Your bicorn, muddy or not, has become a symbol of resilience. A quirky reminder that even an emperor can laugh at himself. And that laughter fuels the courage of your Grande Armée. As the sun sets over Austerlitz, you stand on a hill overlooking your army, the tricolor flag glowing in the fading light. Slightly tilted for a whimsical touch, your new hat sits proudly on your head, a symbol of the day's small but hard-won victory. Cartoon thought bubbles with hats float above you. You spent hours obsessing over hats. Too small, too large, too bird-stained. But now, with your troops ready and your plans set, you can't help but laugh at the absurdity. Murat, you call to your cavalry commander, who's polishing his saber nearby. Do you think the Austrians will tremble at my hat? Murat, his red uniform blazing, grins playfully, his long nose wiggling, cartoon sparkles around him. Sire, they'll surrender the moment they see your bicorn, though the pigeon may have helped. You chuckle, adjusting your hat with a flourish. A good hat is worth 1,000 cannons, Murat. Never forget that. You reflect on the chaos, the tiny hat, the pigeon's mischief, the wind's betrayal, but also on your army's strength, your general's loyalty, and the empire you've built. Fashion may be a battlefield, but tomorrow you'll fight the real one, hat and all. For now, you bask in the twilight, a conqueror with a sense of humor, ready to lead your men to glory. Back in your tent, you prepare for rest. The day's hat saga finally behind you. You shed your blue military coat, the oversized golden epaulets, cartoonishly large, and slip into a simple white shirt and trousers. Emperors need sleep too. General Berthier, ever the dutiful aide, tucks you into your camp bed with exaggerated care, his tiny legs wobbling as he fluffs your pillow. Cartoon hearts pop around him. Good night, sire. May your dreams be free of pigeons, he teases, a playful smirk on his face. You roll your cartoon eyes. Berthier, if I dream of hats, I'll have you court-martialed. But a sleepy grin spreads. ZZs float above your head. Your new bicorn rests on a table, a cartoon crown perched on it for whimsy, a silent sentinel of your day's trials. The camp's quiet, save for the distant crackle of campfires and soldiers' murmurs. You reflect on the chaos, the tiny hat, the bird mess, the wind's betrayal, but also on the battle ahead. Austerlitz will be your masterpiece, and your hat will lead the charge. As you drift off, the day fades into dreams of victory, hats, and a pigeon that just won't quit. Another day as Napoleon is done, and you've survived, hat and all. And so, a day in the life of Napoleon Bonaparte comes to a close, leaving behind a legacy of conquest, courage, and a rather amusing hat obsession on the eve of Austerlitz. If you're still awake, I hope you've enjoyed these imperial antics. If you're drifting off, Let the drum's gentle beat carry you to dreamland. Thanks for joining me on this hat-tastic journey. Like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts or what historical tale you'd like to hear next. Until then, sleep well, and may your dreams be as bold as Napoleon's bicorn, minus the pigeon mess. Welcome to another soothing journey through history. Tonight, we're stepping into the sun-baked, dusty world of ancient Egypt, around 2500 BC, a land of pharaohs, pyramids, and the forgotten art of bread making, a daily task that fed both workers and gods. Imagine spending your day grinding grain, kneading dough, and baking under the scorching sun, all while trying not to get sand in your bread or accidentally offend a visiting queen. Over the next, we'll follow a baker named Kedi through his long, flour-dusted day, joined by a surprising visitor, none other than the great Queen Hatshepsut herself. If you're ready to trade your modern comforts for a peek into this ancient craft, settle in, dim the lights, and maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum. Oh, and if you enjoy this journey, give the video a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Now, let's meet our way into the past. It's just before dawn, in the year 2500 BC, and you're Kedi, a baker living in a small village along the Nile River, not far from the bustling city of Thebes. You wake to the sound of a rooster crowing and the gentle lapping of the Nile against the riverbank, a signal that another long day of bread making is about to begin. Your house is a simple mud brick hut with a flat roof, where you slept to escape the heat. The air is already warm, even at this early hour, and the sand under your reed mat has left a gritty imprint on your back. You groan, scratching at a mosquito bite, and mutter to yourself, "Another day of grinding grain. May the gods give me strength and fewer bugs." You roll off the mat, your bare feet hitting the cool dirt floor, and splash your face with water from a clay jug. Breakfast is a simple affair. A piece of yesterday's bread, slightly stale but still edible, and a handful of dates, which you eat while shooing away a cat that's chasing a mouse around your tiny room. You pull on your white linen kilt, the only piece of clothing you own, and grab your grinding stone and basket of emmer wheat. You're a baker for the workers building the Great Pyramids, and bread is your life. Literally, it's not just food, it's the payment you'll give to the laborers, a currency of sustenance in this land of pharaohs. As you step outside, the sun is just rising over the Nile, painting the sky a fiery red. You head to the communal bakery, ready to start your day. You arrive at the communal bakery, a simple, open-air structure with a thatched roof to shield you from the sun. The air smells of dust, grain, and the faint tang of the Nile. Other bakers are already there, chatting about the latest gossip, something about a crocodile stealing a fisherman's catch. And you join them, setting up your grinding stone. Your first task of the day is to grind emmer wheat into flour, a back-breaking job that'll take hours. You kneel on a reed mat, place a handful of grain on the stone, and start grinding with a smaller stone, your arms moving back and forth in a steady rhythm. The work is exhausting, and sweat drips down your forehead, stinging your eyes. The sun is rising higher now, and the heat is relentless. You're starting to feel like a loaf of bread baking in the oven. To make matters worse, a gust of wind blows a pile of sand into your grain basket, and you groan, muttering, "Oh, great, now I'm making sand bread. Perfect for the pharaoh's feast." You try to sift out the sand, but it's a losing battle. Every baker in Egypt knows that a little grip in the bread is just part of life. Your friend Amun laughs at your plight, saying, "Maybe the workers will think it's extra crunchy." You roll your eyes but can't help chuckling as you get back to grinding. The grain is tough, and your hands ache after the first hour. But you keep going. You need to grind enough flour for 200 loaves today, enough to feed the workers building the nearby pyramid. Bread isn't just food in ancient Egypt, it's currency. The workers are paid in bread and beer, and if you don't produce enough, you'll have a mob of hungry laborers banging on your door. So you grind and grind, your arms burning, your back aching, and your patience wearing thin. By late morning, you've finally ground enough flour for the day's baking. Your arms feel like they're made of papyrus, but there's no time to rest. You need to start kneading the dough. You dump the flour into a large wooden bowl, add water from a clay jar, and a pinch of salt from a sack. The Nile water is a bit murky, but you've learned not to think too hard about what's in it. You mix the ingredients with your hands, the dough sticking to your fingers like a clingy child. By the gods, why does it always stick like this? You grumble, trying to scrape the gooey mess off your hands. Amun, who's kneading his own dough nearby, laughs at your struggle. You look like you're wrestling a crocodile, Keti, he teases, holding up his own perfectly formed dough ball with a smug grin. You glare at him, but can't help laughing as you flick a bit of dough at him. It lands on his kilt with a satisfying splat, and he yelps, "You'll pay for that." The two of you share a chuckle, the kind of camaraderie that makes long days bearable. But the dough isn't done with you yet. It's too sticky, so you add more flour, only to realize you've added too much, and now it's crumbling like sand. You sigh, starting over, muttering to yourself, "If I wanted to make sand bread, I'd just bake the desert." Kneading takes time, and your hands are covered in dough by the end of it. You finally get the consistency right, soft but firm, perfect for shaping into loaves. You divide the dough into small rounds, your fingers moving quickly despite the ache, and set them aside to rise under a cloth. The sun is high now, and the heat is unbearable, but you're one step closer to baking, a small victory in a day full of floury chaos. With the dough ready, it's time to bake. You head to the clay oven, a dome-shaped structure made of mud and straw, already glowing with heat from the fire inside. You stoke the fire with dried palm fronds, the flames leaping up with a crackle, and the heat hits you like a slap from Ra himself. "By the gods, I'm baking myself along with the bread," you mutter, wiping sweat from your brow. You shape the dough into flat, round loaves, placing them on a wooden paddle to slide into the oven. But baking is a tricky business. The oven is too hot, and the first loaf comes out burnt to a crisp, looking more like a lump of charcoal than bread. You groan, tossing it aside. Maybe the village dogs will eat it. You try again, this time lowering the heat. But now the loaf is undercooked, a doughy mess that sticks to the paddle. Amun peeks over and laughs. "At this rate, Keti, you'll be feeding the crocodiles, not the workers." You roll your eyes, but his teasing gives you an idea. You shape the next loaf into a crocodile's head, just for fun, and it bakes perfectly, earning a grin from Amun. As you pull the crocodile loaf out, a village child sneaks up and grabs it, gunning off with a giggle. You shout after him, "That's for the workers, you little thief." But he's already gone, leaving you to laugh despite yourself. You keep baking, finally getting the hang of the oven's temperamental heat, and soon you have a pile of golden loaves ready for the workers. As you're stacking the freshly baked loaves, a commotion erupts outside the bakery. You peek out and nearly drop your paddle. Queen Hatshepsut herself is approaching, surrounded by her entourage of guards and scribes. Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's greatest female pharaohs, is inspecting the villages supplying the pyramid workers. And today, she's chosen your bakery. Her golden headdress gleams in the sun, and her blue kilt is adorned with symbols of power, making her look like a goddess descended to earth. You bow low, your heart racing. Hatshepsut is known for her strict standards, and a bad impression could cost you your livelihood. "Greetings, great queen, daughter of Amun-Ra," you stammer, trying to sound respectful while sweating buckets. She nods, her expression stern, and begins inspecting your loaves. "These are for the workers building my father's pyramid?" she asks, her voice sharp. You nod, holding up a loaf, but in your nervousness, you drop it right into the sand. "Oh no, not again," you mutter, earning a raised eyebrow from Hatshepsut. Amun whispers, "Nice one, Keti. Now she'll feed us to the crocodiles." But to your surprise, Hatshepsut smiles faintly. "Sand in the bread is a small price for honest work," she says, picking up another loaf. "Keep feeding my workers well, and the gods will bless you." She leaves with her entourage, and you collapse in relief, muttering, "I'll take sand over crocodiles any day." With the bread baked, it's time to deliver it to the pyramid workers. You load the loaves into a large basket, balancing it on your head, and set off toward the construction site, a massive pyramid rising against the horizon, a monument to Pharaoh Khufu. The journey is short, but grueling under the midday sun, and by the time you arrive, your kilt is soaked with sweat, and you're dreaming of a dip in the Nile. The workers are hauling massive limestone blocks, their chants echoing across the site. They're a rough bunch, covered in dust and sweat, but they grin when they see you coming. "Keti's here with the bread," one shouts, and soon you're surrounded by hungry laborers. You hand out the loaves, each one a payment for their day's work. Bread and beer are the currency of the pyramid builders. One worker, a burly man named Ta, tries to trade his loaf for an extra jug of beer, winking at you. "Come on, Keti, I hauled 20 stones today. Give me a break." You laugh, shaking your head. "You'll eat the bread and thank me for it." "Pa, beer doesn't build pyramids." The workers devour the bread, some breaking off pieces to share with their friends. You notice a few grimaces, probably from the sand, but no one complains too loudly. They're grateful for the food, and you feel a small swell of pride knowing your bread keeps them going. As you hand out the last loaf, you sit down for a moment, watching the pyramid rise, stone by stone, a testament to the power of Egypt and the power of bread. As you return to the bakery, you take a moment to reflect on the importance of bread in ancient Egypt. Bread isn't just food here. It's life itself. It's the staple of every meal, from the humblest farmer to the mightiest pharaoh. It's so essential that it's even used as payment for workers, a kind of edible currency that keeps the entire kingdom running. You've heard that the workers building the pyramids eat up to 10 loaves a day, along with onions, garlic, and beer, a diet that keeps them strong for their grueling labor. But bread is also sacred. In temples, priests offer loaves to the gods, placing them on altars alongside honey, fruit, and wine. You've seen this yourself at the local temple of Osiris, where the priests bake special loaves shaped like the Ankh, the symbol of life, to honor the god of the afterlife. Bread is a gift to the gods, a way to ensure their favor for the harvest, the Nile's flood, and the prosperity of the land. Even in the afterlife, bread matters. Tombs are stocked with loaves to feed the dead on their journey to the field of reeds. For you, bread is more personal. It's the smell of flour on your hands, the ache in your arms, the satisfaction of feeding your village. It's a craft passed down through generations, a forgotten art that keeps Egypt alive. You may never see the inside of a pharaoh's palace, but your bread helps build their eternal monuments, and that's a legacy you can be proud of. As the sun sets, you finish your work and join the village for an evening celebration, a small feast to honor the Nile's annual flood, which will soon bring fertile silt to the fields. The villagers gather by the riverbank, their laughter echoing over the water. You bring a basket of extra loaves, sharing them with your neighbors, who greet you with cheers. Keti's bread, better than the Pharaoh's feast, one woman jokes, and you laugh, handing her a loaf. The feast is simple, but joyful. There's bread, of course, along with roasted fish, dates, and jars of beer, brewed by the village women. A child plays a harp, the notes floating over the crowd, while Amun tries to dance, his movements so clumsy that he nearly falls into the Nile. Stick to baking, Amun, you tease, and he throws a date at you, missing by a mile. The villagers laugh, and for a moment, the hardships of the day, the heat, the sand, the burnt loaves, fade away. You sit by the water, sipping beer and watching the stars emerge, feeling a rare sense of peace. Hatshepsut's visit still lingers in your mind, a reminder of the power that rules this land. But here, by the Nile, with your village around you, you're reminded of what truly matters. The bread you bake, the people you feed, the life you share. It's a small, quiet victory in a world of pharaohs and pyramids. After the feast, you linger by the Nile. The cool night air, a welcome relief after the day's heat. The village is quiet now, except for the gentle lapping of the river and the distant croak of frogs. You sit on the bank, a leftover loaf of bread beside you, and reflect on the day. It's been a long one, grinding grain, kneading dough, baking under the relentless sun, and surviving a visit from Queen Hatshepsut herself. Your hands are calloused, your back aches, and there's still flour in your hair, but you fed the workers, pleased the queen, and celebrated with your village. You glance at the loaf beside you, and a crocodile pokes its head out of the water, eyeing it hungrily. "Not for you, my friend," you mutter, moving the loaf closer and chuckling to yourself. The Nile glitters under the stars, a reminder of the life it brings to this land and the life your bread sustains. You're just a baker, a small part of Egypt's vast machine, but your work matters. The pyramids will rise, the gods will be honored, and the people will eat, all because of the forgotten art you practice every day. You lie back on the cool sand, closing your eyes as the sounds of the Nile lull you to sleep. Another day as an ancient Egyptian baker is done, and you've survived to do it all again tomorrow. And so, a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian baker comes to a close, leaving behind a legacy of flour, sweat, and sustenance in the land of the pharaohs. If you're still awake after this 90-minute journey, I hope you've learned a bit about this forgotten art. If you're drifting off, let the Nile's gentle flow carry you to dreamland. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts or what historical tale you'd like to hear next. Until then, sleep well, and may your dreams be as warm as a freshly baked loaf of Egyptian bread.